financier of the assassination of the Haitian president only got involved in the operation because he was reliably informed that it had the support of the United States. But you probably didn't hear anything about that because, well, it's Haiti, but also because the Times buried it in paragraph, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keep going, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, keep going, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, keep going, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 20, skip, keep going, 26, 27, 28, keep going, yep, keep scrolling, keep going. You can go back and count yourself if I lost count. 29, there it is. Okay, stop on that one. Paragraph 29, here it is. He said he agreed to join the conspiracy because he was told by Mr. Badiou and other plotters that it had the full support of the United States, which, according to them, was getting nervous about the president's supposed links to terrorists and drug traffickers. Quote, if the U.S. government was involved, then it was safe, said Mr. Jar, outlining his thinking at the time. So that's awfully big news for the New York Times to find fit to print. It's also not at all out of the question. In September, the prosecutor assigned to investigate the assassination announced that the Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, had had multiple phone calls with Joseph Félix Badiou not long after the assassination. Badiou is a former Haitian government official alleged to have overseen the operation. Henry responded to the prosecutor's claims by ordering the man's boss to fire him. When he refused, Henry fired them both. In the wake of that purge and the news that he was suspected in the assassination himself, the United States stood by Henry, even though he had basically no legal claim to actually run Haiti. After the U.S. stood by Henry, even after the firing of the prosecutor, the U.S. envoy to Haiti, Daniel Foote, resigned in protest in late September, saying, "The hubris that makes us believe we should pick the winner again is impressive. This cycle of international political interventions in Haiti has consistently produced catastrophic results." Now, we also know that multiple Americans were involved in the plot, including an American-based security company that helped bring Colombian mercenaries in. Mercenaries that, by the way, had previously been trained by the United States. So to recap, Haitian prosecutors had already recommended Henry be charged, and the Times found and interviewed the alleged financier of the operation, Rodolphe Jar, and he said that the organizers of the plot all claimed to have U.S. support. And the Times ran the claim in print, but buried it as far down as possible, giving the story a headline that made it seem like a rehash of the September news. This is one of the best examples I've seen of the paradox of the New York Times. Many of the reporters who work there are among the most talented in the world. I mean, check out how the Times reporter in Port-au-Prince, Anatoly Karmaniev, got this interview. Quote, in an extensive interview with the New York Times at an empty construction site while he was on the run from authorities, Rodolphe Jar, a Haitian businessman and former drug trafficker, admitted helping finance and plan the plot. Shortly before the assassination, Mr. Jar said Mr. Badiou told him that Mr. Henry would serve as a useful ally after the president was overthrown. Quote, he is my good friend. I have full control of him, Mr. Jar recounted. He is my good friend. I have full control of him, Mr. Jar recounted Mr. Badiou telling him when Mr. Henry, a 72-year-old neurosurgeon, was named prime minister. Now that's dogged and courageous journalism. He got the goods, and the goods wound up in paragraph 29. While the top of the story rehashed details that had already been reported in September. Jar, however, is no longer in hiding. On Friday, he was arrested at the request of the United States in the Dominican Republic, according to multiple news reports, including the Times and the Miami Herald. And Jar, it turns out, is a former DEA informant. The Times ended its story with one more intriguing detail. Quote, but minutes after the murder, Mr. Jar said he received a phone call from Herman Rivera, the leader of the Colombian mercenaries. Quote, the rat is down, Mr. Jar said, Mr. Rivera told him, using a derogatory code name the plotters used for Haiti's leader. The president is dead. Now, Herman Rivera, that's an interesting name. Where have we heard that one before? Ah, yes. Rivera is one of the Colombians who entered Bolivia just before the country's presidential election as part of an alleged plot by the outgoing right-wing defense minister to bring in mercenaries to assassinate then-candidate, now Bolivian President Luis Arce, the protege of Evo Morales. Leading the advance team in Haiti that ultimately assassinated the president, according to Colombian authorities, was Colombian mercenary Herman Alejandro Rivera Garcia, now held in Haitian custody. According to the Minister of Government, Carlos del Castillo del Carpio, Rivera, who goes by Colonel Mike, entered Bolivia on October 16, 2020, under passport number AV9696623, 2 days before the Bolivian election. He came into Bolivia from Colombia via the Vero Vero airport in Santa Cruz and stayed at the Hotel Presidente in La Paz near the presidential palace. They even had the room that he stayed in, which raises the question, did Rivera also believe he had U.S. blessing to assassinate Arce? So some interesting news.
Yeah,
that we're getting from the New York Times there.
Yeah, you really have to scroll.
Now, they could say, well, look, this is just the claim of a former drug trafficker and DEA informant.
Right.
What stock can we put in this? Sure, okay. That's just the on-record testimony of the man that the U.S. has arrested or through the Dominican Republic, claiming that he was involved with this. So we know that he was involved, but we also have all these other connections.
Right.
And my favorite part is the Times has a line that says there's no evidence except, well, there is this evidence, but
right.
I guess they mean there's no other evidence, and that the United States was involved in or aware of the plot. If that latter point is true, and this is kind of beside the point, what good is the NSA?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you're telling me all these Americans and Colombians and Haitians, all of whom we have relationships with,
yeah,
can like openly plot this assassination attempt? Because there's other interesting details in the Times story about who this guy was calling to get weapons. One of them is now Henri's chief of police.
Right.
So you can call all these people and organize a plot, and we're like, oh yeah, we didn't see that coming.
Shrug, yeah.
Right.
No, 100%. And there's two, I mean, to your point about how you're able to just sort of to shift this off and say, like, listen, this guy's a drug trafficker. It's his testimony against the United States government. Well, actually, the fact that he is a DEA informant who has admitted to financing the plot, those are two extremely key details. And so his testimony is sort of given this credibility by the fact that he was a DEA informant who does have some relationship with the United States government. So his claim that there was some blessing from the U.S. government then actually, in a weird way, has a little bit more credibility because this is somebody who's actually sort of been in those circles in different ways. And he has, again, it's really important, as you highlighted, admitted to financing the plot.
Right. And it's also why people like that are useful to the U.S.
Right.
Because, like, well, who else are you going to get to finance an operation like this?
Well, and then this is how that's how you get it in paragraph 30 of a New York Times story, right? And that's how this is not the front page news, because exactly that. You can use people like this and it can be in paragraph 30 of the Times report. Right.
It's sort of like a self-negating thing where you can say, look, hey, you're going to take the word of a drug trafficker and this assassination plot. It's like, well, what, you're going to have the community banker, you know, the respectable community banker who's funding the Little League team, they're the ones that are going to finance this? No, that's who finances these types of plots. And so if you can't believe that type of person, then you can't believe anybody involved in these plots. And that's ultimately their goal, so that they have deniability in the end.
Yeah, and everyone who wants to figure it out has to be like Charlie Kelly
right.
In that episode
crazy.
of Sunny. Yeah. And then you went full Charlie Kelly and went all the way to Bolivia.
Same guy, literally the same guy.
Same guy.